Okay, so I don't quite know what I've gotten myself into, but you will find out as I find out as we go along. So Kuki returns and she brings a friend, Koi.
Yes.
And there's 4 conversations we're going to try and have. The first one is the reality of the blended family, because when we first spoke to you and your mom, I think everybody caught that little bit where you kept saying my 5 parents, and people were like, how does that
my other mom.
my other moms and my other mom and this and that. And I was like, okay, it's all right, I'll invite you. I've got to discuss your cutting. Yes, tell me how you first.
To that.
Yes. I want to talk about the things that you mentioned, that there's certain things anybody between, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 wants to be able to speak to their parents about and can't, and they end up coming to either your mom or your mom. What are those things? So literally, I would like to open the box for other parents to hear. And then lastly, I guess, is where to next? And this is because it actually came into my office about a week ago. Young lady asked me whether I would be open to speaking to a group of Form 4s, Form 3s and Form 4s in December. And I said, about what, for heaven's sake? Said, no, let's talk about work and what sort of work you did right after college. And let's talk about the you that is not the you today. And I said, but why? I mean, given the world we live in, I mean, everybody knows there's a journey. And in fact, you're the people who say, respect the process. But apparently, no. There's a lot of young ladies who actually believe if you're good looking, you're set. Yeah? Yes, she made a face. So I'm going to start with your different sets of parents.
Okay.
So for anybody who didn't watch our first session, your mom was with somebody else and your dad was somebody else. You were the constant.
Yeah, literally in all those 5 parents. Okay, so I was born to my mom, the one, Wairemo, and then my dad and her weren't married. So obviously now that's biological parents.
Yes.
But before me, my dad had another child with someone else.
All right.
So I have a sister who's about 8 years older than me. So then as time went by, my parents got married to other people. So my dad got married when I was 8, and my mom got married when I was 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because now we're talking my older sister's mom, my dad, his wife, my mom, her husband.
Yes.
Yeah. So between about 8 and 17, I was brought up by all 5 of them because they all wanted to contribute to my life in some way.
So you had a village?
Literally, because it's, and remember,
She goes,
because everyone had an opinion, everyone had something they wanted to do for me. And I think sometimes it would clash because, I mean, these are all adults. Then they're thinking, but what to do for the child? And they don't talk to each other about it. So in fact, at some point, I even used to give them the runaround because I'm like, yo, these people are so many.
and they don't talk to each other?
They don't.
Yes.
Yeah, so when one is like, you can't have ice cream, I'm like, easy. Dropped at someone's house.
You're like, I
want
want to
ice
have
cream.
I want to have
You
ice
don't
cream.
even say I'm allowed. I want ice cream. Okay, we go. Because they because they're not raising you differently, but they're thinking of it in different ways. When mom is saying no to ice cream, she's thinking you have asthma. There's cold outside. My dad is thinking a little sugar is not going to hurt the child. My older sister's mom is thinking, you know, my child has also been sick before. But we can get her just one scoop.
One scoop.
Yeah, because it's almost like that one aunt that you don't see that often. But when you see her, she's like, okay, so let's go buy you a dress. You wanted ice cream? I ate. You wanted chicken? That's what we're having for dinner. As it, like everything goes. So I think let's even start from the place of how I found out that I have this many parents. Is that by the time I was getting to about 5, because I think my memories in life in general started around
from about there.
Even earlier, but now it's bits and pieces, but like consistently, probably from 8. So from 8, I'll remember how I used to go to my sister's house, and we didn't hang out that much because my dad wasn't in her life as much. But her mom was like, but they're sisters, they should hang out more. So I think by virtue of that and by her wanting us to have a relationship, she initiated the entire being my mom thing.
Okay.
Like, she's the one who was like, my child is your sister, so you guys have to have some kind of relationship.
Even if as adults, us guys are our own
exactly,
drama.
yeah.
Yes.
And so that was one of the better ones. But at the same time, I never see her that often.
Okay.
So it used to be like the older sister that you've told guys you have a sister, but nobody has ever seen this.
So they think
sibling.
you've got a sister in your cupboard.
Yeah, like
Yes.
or something, because when they visit,
Where's this sister?
Where is this sister? You're like, yeah, but I have an older sister. I mean, when I was 8, she was 16.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so she's a teenager. She literally did not have time for me.
No, of course not.
Yeah, so
you're boring.
Yeah, and but then the other thing is, my sister actually used to visit, like, let's say once or twice a year. She'd like come to my dad's house, and especially after he got married, because now we had a lot more space. And she'd come over and she'd like hang out with me, and she'd be like, you know, I can't stand my friend's siblings. You're literally the only small person I can stand. Yeah, and it used to make me feel so nice. I was like,
oh.
I mean, of all the children she interacts with, she only likes
chooses
me.
me.
Wow. And she used to tell, like, even her friends, she's like, yeah, I have a sister who's like this, like, how old is she? She's like 10. And then, like, they move on, and they're like, we really want to meet your sister. And so every time, even now, I meet my sister's friends, they're always so excited to meet me. And I'm like, hello. See?
Yeah, you're like a doll.
Yeah, relax.
But I guess my question for you, considering, and I say this, and there's always going to be the gasp in the room, you are part of a demographic and generation who, and I see it because I see it just in the organization I work for, that if today you're 27 years old, female, or 27-year-old male, the person you're going to take on a date to Java, one of the questions you can ask them on date number 3 is, do you have kids?
Yep.
You know, because the guy definitely has a baby mama somewhere, and the girl is probably a baby mama herself.
Yep.
What would, when you look at your life, what do you wish more adults understood about the fact that people, when you meet people,
Have
they come with
other
history,
kids.
number one, and they come with children.
Yeah. I think the biggest one is that, okay, now moving on to how people got married to others. So now that's my mom, like the oldest one. And then now you have, like, now my actual mom and how she got married when I was 14.
Yes.
But before that, one of the things that I had to deal with was my dad getting married when I was 8. So he got married, and before that, I think now in relation to what should adults think about, is that my dad asked me. He didn't just go and get married and I found out I have a stepmom.
Okay.
He introduced us. For my 8th birthday, I remember they sent, like, even her sisters and her family sent me gifts. And there were rundies.
Okay.
So they literally sent me gifts.
Okay.
And the other thing is that he didn't just introduce us, like, randomly, like she's moved in. It was, we went out and we met and we had a conversation, and then afterwards we went home to where we were staying separately.
Yes.
And then he asked me, do you like her? I was like, yeah, she's so cool, she's this, she's that. And then he was like, if I married her, you know, you'd have another mom. I was like, yeah, she's really cool, me, I'm easy with it.
So that's something your dad did, right?
Yes. So I think one of the biggest things that I do appreciate about that is that even mom asked me the same question. My parents didn't just go and get married.
No.
Yeah, like even my mom was like, okay, so it wasn't as big as an option, because I mean, I'd already dealt with having a step parent. So in her head, she's like, okay, so it's just more of a question for, it's asking for permission, but also giving information, so that it's not coming from a place of, so I'm going to get married, and since you already have a stepmom, you shouldn't mind having a stepdad. It was more of, okay, so we've hung out with Eric a couple of times. We lived, mom lived with him on and off. And then eventually when they decided they were going to get married, they were like, okay, she's part of this.
She is.
And at that point I was 14. So I was already very outspoken. And if I didn't like something, I didn't like it. But mom knew that I liked Eric. And she was like, okay, so how would you feel if we got married? And I was like, I mean, do what you want. I mean, at the same time, I was a 14-year-old kid. It's those ones of,
I'm done with her.
I mean, do your thing.
From the outside looking in, how long have you known Kuki?
From 2014, so about 4 or 5 years.
15,
So
yeah.
when you look at her constellation, and it is a constellation of families, and what does that look like to you from the outside looking in? Is it regular? Is it the new norm? Is it weird?
It's very interesting, just to see how all of them blend together, even though they might not all speak. Because I'd met her dad, I'd met her elder sister's mom. I haven't met Joel.
Yeah, she was already in the States.
But they all seem to have it figured out, how the whole system runs, and it works out.
And it works out.
Yeah.
And but you know that thing I said, that you're probably the generation who will always meet a person who comes with history.
Yeah.
I can't ask you how you feel because you've lived it. How do you feel? I mean, is that something that, you know, you think to yourself, actually, if I do meet somebody when I'm 25, 26, you're 18, you're like, that's so far away. But if that person comes with history and baggage.
How would I react? Funny enough, I'd always thought of, that had always been a question in my head.
Yes.
If I meet a guy, he has a kid, what am I going to do? I'm like, if you're actually going to be serious about this person, you have to be intentional about the people who he comes with as well.
Because you must remember,
the two of you.
In my generation and that of your parents, I think a man's biggest question was, what if she comes with children? But today, you're thinking, what if he does come with a kid?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's all about intentionality and how serious you're trying to commit with this person.
You know, for an 18-year-old, you're a little too profound. It is literally about intention.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can take some of somebody.
No.
You can't.
Especially if they come with children.
Yes, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who don't want to hear this, and I'm going to keep saying it. Today, a 27-year-old meeting another 27-year-old has to get ready for the fact mentally. And these are not 35-year-olds. Even then, by that time, by the way, when in the university. But literally a person who had a baby 3 years ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. It's actually a big possibility.
And I think one of the biggest things that confirms that for us is that we have people our age or in our age group who have kids.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
How old are you?
I'm turning 20, so I have a
You've
friend.
got people who've got children.
Yeah, in fact, with mom, there's a time one of my friends, like, she got paged, and then we just spent
Paige was pregnant.
just to clarify.
Yes.
And we spent basically the 9 months, and even the months after, because the baby, I mean, she's only a couple of months old. She was born in January. Yeah, like
this year, 2018.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not going to give you her whole story, but it was so complicated, and mom and I were just like, it's a child, it's happening.
Imagine.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to show her what she needs to do and what she needs to avoid, because this child is coming.
Imagine.
And there are things that need to happen for the child to come.
And we're here.
And after, and we can't just sit here waiting for the child.
And wish it had never happened.
Yeah, I know. In fact, I think we were some of the most supportive people, because these days I even text them like, where are the pictures of our baby, our child?
Yes.
Yeah, our child. Since you decided to go and have a child alone, she's our child, community child.
So the two of you bring me to part 2 of our conversation. The conversations your peeps wish they could have with their parents that they can't. Okay? So we're going to sip our teas. You subscribe. Call your friends and say, you won't believe what Caroline is talking about with 19-year-olds who sound like they're 19 going on 45, okay? The Generation Zers, I can talk to anytime. Millennials, I have a problem.
We do too.
Yeah. Oh, you do too. Yes, there was a Forbes that I hadn't talked about that. Subscribe, come back.